weave it in. So I'm going to use the acronym LIFE, okay, because Premier really is a life. It's not a job. And I believe that I have built a life with Premier I've been in Premier almost 7 years, and so not as long as these ladies, so I don't have as much wisdom, but I've learned a lot through the last couple years as I've built my business bigger and bigger and how we kind of control that. So do any of you feel that way? Are you at that point where you feel like, so if you're there and you're thinking, well, how can I be a senior leader if I'm feeling it here at this level, okay? So the first thing you have to decide right now at this level, at Builder Designer, is you have to decide, do I want to make a commitment to Premier? Because just like I think somebody mentioned in there, did you stumble upon leadership? Because, you know, the first jeweler I ever sponsored was just like, she wanted to, and I didn't really want to sponsor. So, you know, we kind of get into that place, and at Builder, you could be there. It might just have happened for you. So you have to decide, am I committed to leadership in Premier? Am I committed to the life? Am I committed to the purpose and passion of Premier? And maybe you're not. So you need to figure that out. You need to pray about that. All right? So the first one I'm going to go into is L for life, and that stands for live it out. So you have to live out your Premier business. Again, I kind of touched on this already. It's not a job you're going to clock in and out with. You have to realize you work when you can. You work in the nooks and crannies, which is the blessing of Premier, but it also means you have to sometimes sacrifice and shut off the TV or miss something that you really want to be at because you have to work your Premier business, okay? But the thing I love is that I put Premier and my family together. So actually, my Premier team had a beach retreat last weekend in Destin. Okay, so I was away from my kids, and it was awesome, I'm not gonna lie. But this weekend is Joy of Leadership, and you know what? I brought my kids with me. They're here, they're with their grandmother, and they think this is the best thing ever in the whole entire world. That I joke about this, but we got to have gas station food on the way here, and we spent $20 on junk. But you know what? They think that is awesome, and Mommy's at a training today, and we pick them up tonight, and we get to have a dinner out, and they just think it's best, okay? Now, they are 8 and through 2, but I'm just saying, you have to find a way to weave it into your life. And so those are the things that we have to think about, and we plan that out as a family, okay? Also, my husband is on board, and you know what? At this level, I have a lot of girls whose husbands are not on board. So you really have to be prayerful about that, because if they aren't, you're not going to really be able to weave it in your life as easy, so you have to be patient with that process as well. And just really quick, I want to give you a little bit of background on my Premier story. If you were at Rally, you heard kind of my debt story, but you didn't hear a lot of my personal story. So I grew up in a pretty broken home. My parents were divorced, and I had really opposite home life. You know, my mom was very liberal, and I did whatever I wanted, and my dad was very strict, very legalistic. So I had these crazy, I didn't know what to do with my life. But of course I wanted to be with my mom because she let me do what I wanted. And I lived a pretty crazy life. I was prone to addiction very early in life. I became a Christian in college. I was led to the Lord by a dear friend of mine at 19. But you know, I still had a lot of crazy issues in my life, and we all do, right? I just thought we'd come to the Lord and I'd be fine and everything would be great. Well, I fell back into just a pretty crazy relationship, and I ended up pregnant. And I had a lot of self-esteem issues at that time, and then he came to me 2 weeks later and told me he had another girl pregnant. So that's part of my story, and the Lord really used that, though. He took, and the guy that I was having his baby, he decided he wanted to marry the other girl. And so I was left alone in a very dark time of my life. And I just thought, is my life really worth living? I failed all these times. Does God really love me? But you know what? In those dark times when literally all my friends had kind of abandoned me, the Lord really took me to a really special place. And he said, April, I'm going to use all this stuff in your life for a ministry. And I thought, and I have this written down in a journal, and I thought, yeah, right. Like, that's the craziest thing. Well, fast forward over a little year later, I met my husband, Michael, who also had a little one about the same age as my daughter. And we ended up getting married a year later. And during our engagement, I was presented with the opportunity of Premier. And we were in desperate need for financial opportunity, so we took the money and we decided to take the pledge. And it's so funny, I look back on that decision and how God was using it and how God really wanted to take this and build a ministry in my life. And I would have never ever dreamed that it was going to be through jewelry. And so I get to share with such amazing ladies about the hope that Christ has given me. And I have a sweet jeweler right here, Casey, who has been able to really understand the hope of Christ through our stories. And so she is a testimony of what God was planting in my heart a long, long time ago. And I share that with you because you have to know what is your purpose in Premier. My purpose is so much deeper than the financial blessings. And God has changed our life financially. We've paid off $75,000 in debt. We're completely debt-free, and we've never owned a home, and that's our new goal, is that we are saving to buy a house, and we're doing it the Dave Ramsey way. But anyways, the Lord has done so much in that avenue, but He's given me a deep passion for women and families and to share the heart of Jesus with people. So that's what drives me. So when I get up every day, and you know what, I would rather, whatever, go out with my girlfriends in the morning, have a brunch, or whatever stay-at-home moms do, I'm kidding. But anyway, I want to do something like that, or if I want to just watch TV, or if I want to just read a book or a novel, haven't done that in a long time. But is what drives me is that. So you have to be driven by something that's bigger than yourself and your own needs. And my husband, he went to this leadership class at church. He doesn't read, he's not choleric. But anyways, for melancholy. But I do, so I picked it up, and it's called The Greatness Principle. And I really have loved this book because it's so the picture of Premier. And it talks about if you want to be great, you don't ascend to greatness, you descend to greatness by serving others. And so that has been something that I have learned through Premier. Because I thought, when I first was at this level, I thought, well, I'm just going to build my business so quick, and it's going to be so awesome, and I'm going to be in the limelight, I'm going to be in that dress, it's going to be awesome. And that's what I really thought in the first part of my business. And God took me to a really humbling place, and He tore my business apart. And He said, you will not build this business until I build it. And that's what He has done for us in the last 2 years, is He has rebuilt our business, and it's been totally based on His grace and His work. And I have learned that service is what leadership is about. And just like Barb and just like Sherry talked about, you have to learn to love those people where they're at and serve them where they're at. Okay, that's so off what I was going to tell you. But anyway, the next thing is I stands for having an intentional purpose. So you each have gifts, and you each have a story that you bring to Premier. They're all so different. And you're going to have a different purpose and passion for why you run your Premier business. That is something you need to be in prayer about. And if your husband is on board, then he needs to be in prayer with you about that. And Christy Sutton shared about her foster story. Well, that's not my story. And that is okay. They have a different purpose for Premier. And it is okay that your story is different. And God's going to use you. He has put the people in your team that are supposed to be there. And you need to constantly be praying for the people that He's going to be bringing into your path, and for you to open your eyes and for you to see that. And that means you have to be intentional. Okay? Also, another thing, is that I'm just going to share these 2 scriptures with you that I was reading in this book the other night. But it says, the generous will prosper. Those who refresh others themselves will be refreshed. Proverbs 11:25. Now, if that is not the heart of Premier, I just do not know what it is. And Randy Draper shared this verse with us a while ago, and that is so what it's about. When you serve others, it's amazing what God does with that. It's amazing what you think I don't have time for. God multiplies the time. And lastly, don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. If you're just constantly focused on that next goal, you're not going to be open to what God is doing around you. And I have learned to kind of take my eyes off of that. So I'm a focused girl. I'm very choleric and melancholy. And so I've had to learn to open my eyes to what God is doing around me. Okay, F means focus. You have to focus on movement in your business. There are times in our business when life happens. So we're very focused and we're walking that journey with Premier, but guess what? Something happens in our life, We've all went through things in our life. Barb and Sherry, you're on that journey and you're saying this is a journey, it's not a destination. Things are going to happen and you're going to turn, a 90 degree of your business, and you're going to be so focused on that life circumstance. And we have to do that. But the key with leadership is we can't do a 180. We have to get right back on focus, and we have to be able to get back and move in our business. So a lot of you might be there. A lot of you might be feeling like my business is going nowhere. So what are some things that you can do to be able to create some movement in your business? Okay? The first thing is you have to take responsibility for where your business is. You have to put shows on your calendar. There is no other way you're going to make movement in your business if you do not add shows to your calendar. You also must increase your sharing opportunities. When you are at those shows, meeting ladies, you must be sharing. You're not going to sponsor if you're not sharing. You rarely get a Facebook message like Christy talked about, right? All right, the next thing is maybe your girls in your downline, you're feeling like they're kind of not motivated. If you fall off, they will do the same thing. You are the leader, they will follow you. So you need to create specific contests for girls in your downline. You can do that. You can specify to a certain girl, Marie, or right here, we'll see that Marie, she's been a good jeweler before, but she's kind of fallen off. So maybe I'm going to go to her and I'm going to give her a specific contest. I'm going to say, you're going to meet, maybe she's not going to meet that consistency challenge for the whole entire thing, but she's going to meet it. I can see that she could meet it the next month. She's been doing like 3 shows here and there. So I might go to Marie and I might give her a special challenge that if in March she does her 5 jewelry shows, and maybe we don't have a retail tied to it though or anything. She's going to do 5 jewelry shows and I'm going to give her $50, okay, in free jewelry for doing that, just to encourage her and get her out there and get her motivated. And I'm not doing that for the rest of my girls. It's okay to do that. Work with the girls like Barb talked about who are working. All right, also you need to make sure your show is duplicable. We've already went into that. You need to, okay, another thing you could do is girls who are working. So maybe you have 2 that are working. Do a focus group with them. Read Dare to Dream, Work to Win with the girls who are working. Focus on them, read it together. That's a great read if you haven't read that. The next thing you need to do is you need to keep sponsoring. The more you sponsor, the more you will have to work with, and the more you will be excited about your business. Don't stop at designer. You have not arrived. You've never arrived in this business. Keep sponsoring and keep sharing. And lastly, exactly what Barb said, remember, do not push girls who are not ready. They will run away from you. Brush up on your people skills. Read the book that Sherry talked about. There's lots of people skills books out there. And you will be able to understand how to work with ladies even better. Okay? And another thing here on the focus is that we can be idle in our business, not just when we have life circumstances, but when we say yes to too many things. If you are a leader in Premier, you need to learn the word no. And I read this in My Utmost for His Highest the other day. It says, if God has given you a ministry, which I believe it is through Premier, then you need to focus on that. You will have to ignore the demands for service to Him through other avenues. Oh my goodness, that is convicting, because we say, well, it's good to say yes to leading a Sunday school class. Not if God has given you the ministry of Premier through many ladies that you can change their life. You have to know what God is teaching you through that. And there's another great book, My Best Yes, is that Lisa Turker's? Okay, and E stands for having an eternal perspective. We need to know what God is doing in us and through us, and that we have a great purpose. We need to think on things that are eternal. When there is a cancellation, when there is a great jeweler, I have a great jeweler in my downline who literally just left because her husband would not allow her to do this anymore. She did 5 shows last month and she quits today, or March 10th, whatever it is. But it breaks my heart, but you know what? The eternal perspective is that I'm still going to love on her, and I'm still going to encourage her maybe one day to do Premier when he can get on board. But the thing of it is we have to love them through that. We have to have eternal perspective when the things that we don't like are going wrong in our day-to-day life, okay? We aren't teaching women just to make income, but we are teaching them, we are investing them to share the love of Christ with them above all things. Okay, we are giving them a greater reward than they can ever receive, better than any charm bracelet that Premier can ever give them, is the hope of Christ that we are planting in their hearts. So, what are you doing to make a difference in your downline's life? Maybe they're here just for a season. They're not here to build a business for Premier. What are you doing? Have coffee with them. Get to know them. Send them an encouraging scripture. That's the most important thing you can do. Send them something that'll brighten their day. Pray for them. And know that when you invest in His kingdom, God will take care of your needs. You don't need to worry about the money side. Invest, and He will take care of it. So I hope that you'll walk away from this knowing that you're not involved in just a job. This is a lifestyle of loving Jesus and sharing it with others. And if you do not know what that means, you can ask any leader here. We will share the hope that that will bring to not just you, but so many others around you. So thank you guys for listening. I feel like I just preached. Okay. All right, what are we doing now?